Hi everyone, I'm Jesse from Presley, and it's great to be back with another PR roundtable. This one has been long in the making since we've actually started this project at the beginning of the year, and this is about something that's such a pain that we hear from PR and comms professionals, basically since we started Presley, and it's about dealing with contact lists. So many people are still struggling and telling that it's basically one of their top 3 frustrations in doing the job. So we decided to learn more about this and actually do a survey with this. We've got over 400 results, and the results are in. So during this conversation, we'll be showing some results to you as we go, and we'll get some context from my great guests. That's really something that I really like doing these PR roundtables. It gives me a lot of energy. I get to speak with smart people. And today, this is Manon from ONA, basically a PR agency from Antwerp, but you have offices in Amsterdam, I think, as well, and in Luxembourg, right, Manon?
In Ghent.
In Ghent,
we just started an office in Ghent as well.
Yeah. So Manon, he works for a great brand, one of the greatest brands in the world, and mainly IKEA, but some others you can find on our website. And then we have Paulo all the way from Canada, who's been doing PR and communication in sports for quite a while, I think, Paulo. I think when we met, you were working for the Canadian Olympic team when we first spoke, and you have always been in sports, but recently, or not that recently, made the switch to esports, right?
I did, yeah, 2 years ago.
Okay, how has that been going? And why did you switch to esports? You saw this coming, right?
Yeah. I wish I was smart enough to see that this was coming, but no, I just thought that it would be an interesting field to jump into.
Cool. Yeah, it does, and it's been growing rapidly, I guess, as an industry, esports.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. I'll jump into it a little bit later on, but there's gaming and then there's esports, and they're not the same, but it's the whole industry as a whole is really booming right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. So great. So, and then we have some great people here with us as well that joined us. So we want to see that chat on fire as every time. Everyone is still probably working from home, so let's use that chat to socialize a little bit. So let us know where you're dialing in from. It's always nice to see. Oh, Kate already asked the question. So we see people from Belgium, of course, and then from Dubai, from Argentina, from Berlin, Australia, Kolkata, India. So nice. Ghana. That's always nice. So great to see so many people from all over the world. Oslo, Norway, Zurich, Switzerland. So great, guys. Ghent, Manon, you're from Ghent. We already knew that. So, but keep that chat on fire. My colleague Kate is in there as well. She will help you. She'll share some links here and there. If you have questions for any of my guests, let me know, and Kate will send them to me. So that's great to hear. So let's dive in. I'll start with you, Manon, on the whole contact lists and media lists. What was your first experience like dealing with media lists?
Well, I actually started at ONA 4 years ago, fresh from university, and it's only 4 years, but it feels like so much has changed already. We used to work with a lot of Excel lists and an internal system, like a database, but which wasn't dynamic at all, which was mostly updated by interns. And I felt like there were a lot of Excel lists circulating, and everyone had their personal bubble of media contacts, and there was not a lot of sharing. So I feel like this has really evolved since we started working with Presley. So I think this is the thing that I think has changed the most, that it's from a personal bubble of Excel lists to this shared platform of not the Excel list, but dynamic updates on persons and organizations. That helps a lot.
And Paulo, you've been around a little bit longer, I think, if I can.
I think you're calling me old.
No, I'm not. I was being very political about it, so I didn't call you old. But you've been around a little bit longer. So how have you seen it evolve?
So I'm gonna reframe that, and I'm gonna say I started really early. I started really early, so I'm not old. Okay, I'm 36. So I'm gonna echo a lot of the stuff that was just said. It was all about Excel spreadsheets and from the personal to dynamic platforms like Presley for sure. I would just add that like I'm just like thinking about what I was doing early on, emails with like 50 email addresses on it, and then sometimes you even had to do 2 or 3 emails because there were limits to how many people you could send it to. So that's just crazy, right? Like if you think about it right now, like if you're still doing that, you absolutely need to stop, and you need to talk to people at Presley for sure.
Yeah. So, but that's good. But so you came into PR like dealing with all these kind of hassles, and do you feel like it evolved a lot since you started, or it's kind of still baby steps?
No, it's changed massively. I would even say like even in politics, before I moved into PR, I was doing policy work and issues management, and you still had to send like campaigns out, if you will, right? And so not necessarily PR, but like internal communications or investor relations, for example. And it was the exact same thing. Everything was on Excel spreadsheets. There were multiple spreadsheets everywhere. You had to accumulate a bunch of them into one email. There wasn't a platform like Presley back in the day, or at least I didn't know about it. But it made something that we now do in minutes, like a job that really took like hours to do. That's the biggest change.
Yeah. And is it mainly like then the Excel lists that were that like, or is it mainly that it's not something that's centralized that was kind of hurting you most? Let's go to Manon for a second, because I think you work. How big is the team at Ona that is actually sharing contacts?
We actually have 50 people. So in the offices of Antwerp, Ghent, and Amsterdam together. So I think, as you said, that's like the biggest struggle, that everyone works in small teams. So we have an entertainment team, we have a fashion team, we have I work in a design team, we have a beauty team. So it's different fields of play. But sometimes the contacts cross over, because in lifestyle PR you have journalists who write about lipsticks and fashion and interior design for the same magazine, for example. So I think the centralized thing is that you can now combine all that information, also like how do they respond to your emails, all that information that was stored like at one person or one team is now shared across all the teams, I think, and that's for us a very big improvement from our other system that we used to.
But of course, like having all those things centralized, like doesn't solve everything, right? Because sometimes you have still emails that bounce, you still need to source contacts and so on. Like do you also feel that dealing with these kind of things is actually taking you away from the interesting parts of the job, Paulo?
Yeah, for sure. But things have changed so much. Like I'm just thinking about like open and click rates. Like on the back end of Presley, you can see now that your campaigns have been opened by 33%, for example, of people. But you can actually go into that 33% and see who that you sent it to. It did not or did open the email. So if you really wanted to get to a specific journal or a specific outlet, for example, and that person didn't open it, you can send a text message, you can send a DM, you can send another email that's a bit more personalized. That just never happened. Like even I think like 5, 6, 7 years ago, like, we're not talking 10, 20 years ago. Like this is just something that has really changed the game. And so the ability to do that has freed up the rest of your day, like from a PR perspective.
And then if you, go ahead, Manon.
I think maybe to pick into what Paulo said, I think this follow-up thing is something that even like 1 year ago we didn't have, because we work with a kind of mailing platform where we just send the emails via the Excel lists, and we didn't really have a way to see how many people opened, how many people clicked, how many people weren't really interested in what we did. So I think Presley really facilitates, like a dynamic platform really facilitates this, but you have to like have a personal approach afterwards. You can't just say, I'm just gonna resend the people that haven't opened it yet. So I think it helps, but you still need that personal PR approach to follow up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and if you then look at, for example, keeping contacts up to date, how is that? What's kind of the frequency that you guys do this? Like, is it something that you do along the way? Because we hear, and in gaming, I guess this is also something that we hear from a lot of our gaming customers, that there's so much like switches going on. Like journalists go from one outlet to another, they go freelance, then they kind of change mail address, phone. Like how do you, like, do you have some kind of processes in place to kind of deal with these things apart from like software uses? Let's start with Paulo with this one.
Yeah, I would say that I'd say a big part of it is reactive. And that is like people generally just like write you back and they'll say like, I'm leaving or I'm moving. What I'm sort of starting to see now, like I think the Pressly system is so dynamic and great that people generally are not annoyed by the types of campaigns that you're putting together, because it's not just text heavy. Like, there's video components, there's social media integrations. It's a really dynamic platform. And so when you're sending out campaigns, people generally are interested in reading it. I'll just speaking for myself in the organizations that we've been with. So generally people want to be up to date. So I'm getting a lot of like, hey, we're leaving or we're moving. This is my new email address, or like my colleagues are also wanting to be on the distribution list, for example.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's mostly reactive. I don't spend a whole lot of time going in and updating things all the time, because generally speaking, the bounce backs are not enough to kind of like concern me.
Yeah, understand. But that's actually like I consider this, if I speak with clients, kind of a luxury problem as well, right? Because like if journalists start contacting you, like, give me more of your news, or here are my new details, or so on. Like, so, but I guess not everyone sits in that, or not every brand sits in that position. Like maybe Manon, you can go into that a little bit more. How are you dealing with? Because you, of course, kind of need to prove to your clients that you have a good database and you keep relationships going and so on. So what's the process that you guys have in place for that?
Well, I think a lot that Paula said is the same for us. I think we also have a lot of journalists who proactively say like, I moved to another magazine, or I moved to another medium. So that's something that we, as we go, we also share. We have this internal platform, which is called Slack, in which we also share a lot of updates on, for example, interesting new media, interesting new influencers, interesting new journalists. So it's kind of like a shared responsibility that the people who get the information updated on Pressly. But then I think we just did like a kind of a Pressly spring cleaning, or a database spring cleaning, because there's always, when you upload new lists, or if you upload new data, there's always some people that add all the details, or who might have made a little mistake. So we actually did a big spring cleanup. So I think it's like a thing that we also would do every few months, just to check that there's not like 1,000 bounced contacts or duplicates. And we check this every press release as well, but with a database of, I think, 10,000 people, it's really a good thing, I think, to keep this up to date and not just do the regular checks, but really do them every few months as well.
And I think like what you guys are describing of journalists that are actually reaching out to you to say like, listen, I'm moving here. That's also because there is some kind of working relationship in place, right? So this is kind of, I guess, the basis that you've always respected their situation and been mindful of what they want to share with their audiences. And that's probably why you're a good source for them. And to kind of reach out to help them kind of get news to their audiences. Is that something that you guys actively work on? And I'm making a jump now, like almost to the end, because relationships are of course important. But is this something that you guys are actively like working with? And how do you decide to invest in a relationship? Yes or no, Paulo?
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention the word relationships, because that's just like a completely different conversation. It's in a very important conversation, but let's do it. Okay, let's do it anyway. So it's like, when people ask me like, how do you choose like which journalists you invest in, or like it's like asking like which friendship do you invest in your personal life? Like there's a personal life and there's a work life, and sometimes those worlds meet and they intersect. And so as great as Pressly is, it's not going to take over your relation, like the importance of relationships in the workplace.
No.
So you mentioned, that's a great point, Jesse, right? Like the fact is, you don't want people to reply to an email like all the time and just saying like, oh, I'm moving. Effectively, you want people to kind of like just tell you that during your lives, like during your work lives. And that happens a lot too. If you've got really good relationships that are current and authentic and genuine, then people will just generally tell you that, like, I'm leaving, or my colleague is leaving, you might want to update this. So relationships, generally, we can have an entire webinar on how important relationships are.
Sure.
But even for the upkeeping of contact lists, I would say it's like at the top of the list in terms of like how important it is to have really authentic and genuine relationships.
Yeah. Kate, maybe we can bring up that graph. We have some like a nice graph that came out of the survey around relationships. So you can see it on the screen there, and she's going to start scrolling all the way down, like explaining to people like what the value is of relationship. And we asked that question to like the 400 respondents, and this is what they came up with. Blah blah blah. Here we go. So what does a good relationship with a media contact look like to you, right? 48% said that they reach out to you for stories and update. So basically, they kind of come to you. Do you have something kind of for me? That's what I like it, which I think is very nice, right? Like if, yeah, especially like, listen, I have some place, I need to have it. That's really like the strongest thing. 30% says they reply to your campaigns, whether they're interested. So basically, there's a dialogue going on. 10%. You receive their personal contact details, like, so you can kind of send them a WhatsApp message and so on. And there are 6% they follow up when they move to another company, right? So this is kind of something that we've been discussing. So I guess this is kind of like in line with what you guys are sharing as well. That these are the things that are being reaffirmed. Like Manon, you have anything to add to this when you look at this graph? Is it something that you recognize?
Yeah, I think as Paulo said, I think first it's just a
of course.
tool, and you still need like the basic PR, the R of PR, the relationship, which are super important. And I think especially in Belgium, it's not like the media landscape's not that big. So you don't have like 100 journalists that are relevant for your field of play. So I think you should really like focus on the journalists that are relevant to you, and try to have a genuine relationship or build up a genuine relationship with them, and this push and pull, like the reach out to you for stories and updates. I think that especially in lifestyle PR, like journalists are actively contacting us for example, for one of my clients, IKEA, I get like daily questions on, for example, now in this times, like, do you have information or like imagery on home offices or on small balconies, inspiration. So it's something, yeah, that they ask you, and then the next time a story, then they might have some extra time to offer you, because it's like a give and take, and you try to feed them with nice information, and then you have this pull and push effect of building a relationship with a journalist.
But what my question is then a relationship, of course, is a pretty big investment, right? So it's not something that you do. And for example, like my wife, she just started like an e-shop, right? It's very small, but she already gets requests from influencers to send her like free gear, and I'm like, why are they so how, like, and then they say like, listen, we have X thousand followers, and that's kind of their deal. I guess that's Ona, you get these requests also pretty often. So how do you decide to invest in a relationship? Is it just based on the reach that they have, or what's kind of the deal there?
Influencer marketing. I could also do a whole webinar on influencer marketing, but we could talk about that subject, the do's and don'ts. But I think the main thing is we always check the brand fit first. Like to go further on IKEA, for example, if it's someone who always buys Louis Vuitton or like very high-end brands and who doesn't really post anything about interior, and then asks like, I'm redoing my bedroom, can we have a team up, for example? Our first reaction would be like, we're not really sure there's a brand fit, but then we also think about, for example, if we could reach another target group, maybe it's interesting to position IKEA in a bit more different target group, for example. So it's really, it depends on the goal of the campaign or the project, who you want to work with. And I think it's also about like checking the numbers. So we first do like a brand fit. Is it like very qualitative content as well? So I think in the first place, we don't really look at the numbers. We really look at the impact that someone has in a certain field of play. Like, is it just somebody who bought a lot of fake followers and now has a big reach, but not really impact? And then I think because we work with a lot of different brands, as I said, in fashion, beauty, design, entertainment, we also have like some very long-term relationships with influencers with whom we've worked for different brands, for example. So I think that's also the strength of an agency, that you can really build up long-term relationships with influencers across the different fields of play and have some insights from your colleagues as well. Like, how was that collaboration? Was it good, or yeah, were you satisfied with the results? Why? And then we have this, as I said, this platform to also check the numbers. Like, what target group are you aiming at? Is it real following, or is it fake following? Is it in Belgium, or is it like 90% in the UK? So there's different factors, but I think, yeah, it all starts with the quality of the content and the match with the brand.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. We've got a like follow-up question. Maybe Paula, I'll say that to you. So people are asking, what's the best way to introduce yourself to a prospective contact, right? That's a question we got a lot, because in Brazil you start from your own contact list. Like, we don't offer any contacts. So how do you kind of open that like professional synergy, not really a relationship, I can't call it a relationship anymore, but how do you kind of introduce yourself? I think that's a good one.
So I'm just trying to see if I understand the question properly. So how do you as a PR professional introduce yourself to like a journalist?
Yep, or like a new blogger that's or a Twitcher that's been kind of very popular, and you want to reach out to him?
Yeah, so I'll answer this in two ways. One is I think I have a pretty unique experience just in sports, because like, whether it's like going to the Olympic Games in Sochi or like working with professional sports leagues, when you're working with journalists, it's not a quick interaction. They're usually there for, at the very least, like 2 or 3 hours for the game, and there's media rooms and there's media boxes where you have those conversations like all the time, like on a weekly basis. When I was at the CFL, and at the Olympics, you're literally there for 35 to 45 days, and you're seeing these individuals every single day. If you're not maximizing that time with your potential working colleagues and your journalist friends, that's not a very good thing to do. Because once the games are over, or once the season is over, that interaction day to day, like face to face, is no longer available to you. And to answer your question in the second way is, and I know it's a little bit difficult because we're all working from home right now, but face to face interactions, coffees, drinks, that is really the best way to form a relationship and to amplify a relationship. I would say maybe some advice for right now. Cam is great as well, but maybe just find that nugget, like that nugget of interest, like mutual interest from both what you're trying to sell as a story, or you're trying to pitch as a story, and the expertise that individual has written about, or from a brand or influencer perspective, that they do really, really well. You have to find that nugget, and you have to help that person tell that story. It's not a one-way relationship. Like, no. This is not really about me as a PR professional getting a story written. It has to be two individuals working together to tell that story in a very interesting, compelling way. Journalists want to do that. They want to differentiate themselves from everybody else. And as PR professionals, you have the access and the expertise to get them an angle that they may not be thinking about it as well.
Okay. So like on that face-to-face and go out for coffees, Manon, is that the reason why Ona has a coffee bar at their offices?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
One of the reasons.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
So you can have your frappuccino while waiting or having a meeting. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it definitely fits the DNA of Ona, that we like the real connections and tell the real stories. So it's definitely something that comes in really practical, not only for journalists, but also to meet up with clients or influencers or just the colleagues. So I think I saw this question in the chat now on how do we tackle this now, because we can't really go out for coffee, you can't really sit in our Ona coffee bar. Actually, we tackle this. We have this day-to-day interactions with journalists anyway, so we try to call them and do some video chats or emails just to stay updated. But we normally have our press days every season, which is kind of an open door in which we tell all the new stories for the new season, and in which we do like a big setup in a specific team with all our brands included. Now we try to do this differently, but starting from the same like relationship building. So we send our top journalists of each field of play. We send like a small package with some flowers, Belgian chocolates, and like a print invitation saying relationships are timeless, and then invited them to a kind of a video chat next week, in which we won't really, like, it's not really the aim to push the story. And I think Paulo said that really nicely, that it's about thinking together how we can like build a story that's relevant for the readers and that's relevant for the brand that you try to integrate in a certain story. So next week we'll be having like a lot of different video chats with these editors to see how they're doing, what the new reality is, what the coming months will bring. So I think it's really good to stay updated on what's going on and not just push your stories through, but really try to feel like what's going on and what are they interested in now. So that's, I think, our strategy for the next week's month.
But it's nice that you, go ahead, Paul, go ahead.
I was just, because that's such a, that was such an incredibly important point that Manon was mentioning. Last week, I made a list of like, I wouldn't say like top journalists, but journalists who I just want to have a conversation with and catch up with. And that's exactly what I did. I asked them, how are you doing? How are your families doing? And then, but secondly, like with all of this going on, what are the angles and what are the storylines that you guys are chasing right now? I mean, how long did it take for all of us to just be so sick and like tired of all the coverage about closures? Oh my God, like, no one's going out in squares in Italy. Oh my God, like the stores in Toronto are closed. After a while, it just got repetitive. And guess what? Journalists are also sick of writing those stories. So that is such an incredibly important point. Don't always just connect with journalists when you're trying to pitch something. I'm trying to understand what they're looking for. What are the angles? What are the what is the outlet really chasing this month or this week? And when you know that, you can actually draft storylines and pitches around those objectives. So then it feels like you as a PR personality or professional are actually trying to help them doing their jobs a little better as well. It becomes less selfish, because pitches are inherently selfish. You're trying to you're trying to get your story across. So if you can do it in a different way, that actually helps the journalist on the other side. It really does work better, and the relationship will be better for it.
Yeah. That's one for the quote. Pitches are inherently selfish. That's one I'm going to remember as a good one. So, okay, moving on a little bit to, bringing it down a notch. I really think we can do tons of more on the relationships. But something that we found in our survey as well is that people who using spreadsheets are basically wasting so much time as well. I think